and welcome to the Property Unleashed with me, Mark Fitzgerald. It's fantastic to have you joining me here today. If this is your first time listening to the podcast or joining us on the video, where have you been all your life? But you have found us now. Today, I have the lovely Janette White joining me again. Now, Janette and Barry were both on, I think it was episode 142. So do go back and listen to that one because it's a fantastic episode which talks about their journey, where they've got to, the successes and the struggles that they've had. But I've really wanted to get Janette back on because she does her own property training and it's fantastic stuff. But there's one that really caught my eye and it's all about the numbers. So the numbers in any property deal, and you'll have heard me say before, a deal is not a deal unless it's a deal, really stamps home that, you know, a lot of us don't have the confidence when we're starting out, or even if we're seasoned investors in different strategies. But Janette's going to help us with that today, and she's going to talk about that. So welcome to the show, Janette. It's great to have you back.
Hello, it's wonderful to be here with you again, Mark. It's fabulous. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So that's good. People don't normally ask me how I'm doing, but yeah, life is good.
You're a human being. I've got to ask how you're doing.
Well, that's it. No, I appreciate that. So, I mean, first of all, obviously, you've seen a little sort of, I was going to say niche in the market. It's not a niche, but you've seen a problem that you've gone to trying to solve it. So, you know, from your perspective with the numbers, do you just explain to us how this has sort of come about for you?
So I started in property about 12 years ago. And my husband and I decided after long story really short, after Barry had cancer and survived cancer, we decided we were going to do something different with our lives. Instead of working for a living, how about money working for us? Found Rich Dad, Poor Dad, got into property, and we learnt about property. But here's the thing. When you are born and you start to grow up with certain expectations in life, don't you? You pick it up from your parents and you can't help it. It's perfectly natural and normal. One of the things that I knew was that if you got a mortgage, you would have to put a deposit down. I knew that. Yeah, that was a given. And when we did the property training, they talked about the numbers and very briefly. Now, my education, I'm not a university graduate. Yeah, I am dyslexic. I am okay with numbers, but I have dyslexia. So numbers don't come easy. And at that point, before I started believing in myself, I had a lot of doubts about my ability to be able to do property. But, you know, you got to go for it, haven't you? So you get out there and you go on to these training programs. But then when we went out to find properties, this is where things got tricky. And you know, if anybody out there relates to this, yeah, we're on the same page. My husband found properties. He'd go find properties. We'd go and look at them together. And then I would think, oh, right, okay, let me do some research. So I start researching and I'd figure out what the done up value was of this property, because I knew I had to figure that out. That's one thing I knew. Second thing, I did some research and I figured out what the rent was. Everything from there on in got a little bit wishy-washy. So when you go through training with any company, and you know, I don't care who you are, unless you're like mega brilliant, you hear it once and it comes in here into your head. And then after a very short while, it kind of like drifts out. It somehow like disappears out of your head. And you're thinking, I'm sure somewhere along the line, they must have explained numbers to me. So why is it now I'm sat at my desk with the pictures from the property? I went round, I took photographs. I spoke to the agent, I built rapport, I did all the things I was supposed to do. Yeah. And now I'm looking at these numbers and I don't get it. I simply don't get it. And it was there that I had the problem. That was when I started having the problem. And I started to doubt. I started to doubt my husband.
Don't tell him.
He's not here. He's not here today. He's not in the house. He knows anyway. I started to doubt my husband and his ability, because if I couldn't do it, how come he could do it? You know, and I think that it all comes to within inside of you and your own personal situation. But I figured, obviously you're going to get a mortgage, you're going to get a deposit, but then you needed another mortgage. Well, surely if you needed a second mortgage, you'd need another deposit. And that was one of the biggest sticking points. And I could not move forward with offers, with even the possibility of buying something without understanding these numbers. And by that time, the education part of it had finished. Yeah. So we were now out there trying to do this property business with very little idea on the numbers. And Barry did understand it a lot better than I did rather. But nevertheless, our very first property, he sat down and did his research. I sat down and did my research. He said Dunnup Valley was this. I said Dunnup Valley was this. He said rent you'll get is this. I said rent we'll get is this. So we had completely different opinions. And then there was the cost of the refurb. Okay. So I'm thinking this is a disaster. Okay. But he's had the offer accepted. He's put in an offer. And according to his numbers, they were perfect. And according to me, we were about to walk into this massive black hole. And we were about to lose thousands and thousands. And it really did terrify me. But as a couple, so anybody doing property as a couple, yeah, you do have to be mindful and supportive of your partner. Okay. And as a couple, you have to do this, supporting each other. So I said to him, I think you've got that wrong. And I think you've got that wrong. And I think you've got that wrong. But if you're confident, we'll do it. I was thinking, this really is terrible. Now, I'm going to tell you the story. So every property, guys, you end up buying has a story. Am I right, Mark?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, every property has a story. So the very first property this offer was accepted on, it was a repossession. Now, when it comes to repossessions, there's a company. It's not a person. So whilst, you try to build rapport, it's not a person, it's a company. So a decision was made somewhere along the line with this company that they were going to take our offer. But I'm telling this from the soul here. So as I say, Barry's here. He's thinking this is a fantastic deal. It had taken us 18 months to get this deal, Mark. Yeah. Searching, looking, putting in offers. So he was delighted that everything to him pinned on this property deal going through. I'm thinking he's made a mistake. This is a disaster. So the conveyancing goes on. We get to the day that we are due to exchange and complete on the same day. The morning of that day comes, and I'm thinking, oh, well, let's hope I'm wrong and he's right. And we had a phone call. The phone call was from the agent. And the agent said, just to let you know, we've had another offer on the property. And because it's a repossession, okay, this offer has to go forward. So Barry, at this point, the words are coming out of her mouth, and we were on speakerphone, and I could see him thinking, oh no, I've worked so hard to get this deal. And I could see it, just thinking, oh God, I'm thinking, yes, the universe is aligned. The secret is all true. And we are not going to lose all this money. And so that's where we are. Okay. She said, will you increase your offer by £10,000? Now, despite everything, we had agreed that we had already offered the top offer. So even he had to say, no, we are ready to do this today. Yeah. If you want to start the whole conveyancing again, that's up to you and the company selling it. So we put the phone down. This was in the morning. So in the afternoon, the phone rings. It's the solicitor. I'm thinking, I'm really excited. And he's thinking, here we go. Yeah, hi, solicitor. Solicitor said, congratulations, you've exchanged and completed. I'm thinking,
Oh,
what? No, this is terrible news. He's thinking, yes, the stars have aligned, the secret is all true, and I've got my first property deal. And that is the emotional roller coaster of just about everybody that ever gets into property for the first time, that does a bit of education. You learn, possibly sometimes you learn too much, you know, and it puts too much pressure on you. And it's the emotions drawn up within understanding the numbers. And that certainty, or at least some kind of certainty around the longevity. So, of course, yeah, you want to know the outcome, don't you?
Yeah.
That story, that there's got to be an outcome. So, this is our first property deal. My husband gets the paintbrush out, you know, he's got his daughter there, and, you know, we've got people doing work to it because it needed work doing, and all the rest of it. And I'm busy, you know, putting food on the table. And we refinanced. So we bought it. Now, hold on. So we bought it for £64,000. When we refinanced, we got the done up value. We refinance at, I'm trying to think, the first refinance was, I think, just short of 100,000, so 90,000, 99,000, something like that. So, you know, just short of 100,000. And it rents so well. The cash flow is brilliant at the moment, absolutely fantastic. But now, and that's when we first refinanced. Because understanding the numbers and understanding, guys, if you're still thinking refinancing, you have to find a deposit. You don't. You already own it. Think of it like getting a further advance. It's not a refinance. You can look at it like a further advance. Then it started to sink in my head as to what the hell that was. It's now worth £165,000, and we bought it for 64.
Nice.
Please, can somebody go out, make a DeLorean car so I can go back in time, take back everything I said, and find another 10 of those?
Yep.
Because, you know, at that point, that emotional roller coaster was crippling. It would have crippled me. If it had just been me doing it, I wouldn't have bought it. So thank goodness there were two of us in our property journey together. Yeah. And it's still, you know, when the rates were low and I knew the rates were low, I whacked it onto a 5-year fixed. I wanted longevity for my property, and I wanted certainty for the cash flow. So I'm a bit risk averse. But you kind of get that from that story. I am risk averse. And now I understand, after being through that, and then we bought the next one and the next one and the next one, and we continue to grow our portfolio, the calmness starts to come in, doesn't it, Mark? The calmness of investing in property, and the realization that actually time is the biggest healer in property. Time is the reason we get into this. It's time that comes back and gives you that big, warm, loving hug. Yeah. I remember one of my trainers saying property is very forgiving, and I didn't understand that. I just thought, okay, he's a nutter. Yeah, clearly. I had a whole selection of different trainers who trained me, definitely putting him in the nutter box. But he's absolutely right. And it's not until you have been through that emotional roller coaster, you've come out the other end, and you've got time to look back, that you can then start to feel the confidence that you needed back then to get that first deal.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, if you're getting into property investing for the first time or even for the 10th time. You know, it still can be, if you're pushing yourself, it still can be that emotional roller coaster. And understand the numbers. Understand the variations. So as we're talking right now, interest rates, the lovely Bank of England have put interest rates up again, bless them. What's it called, Mark? The International Monetary Fund people are saying that we're going to be in a recession. And you're thinking, is that right? Is that not right? Bank of England are now saying we will, but it's not going to be as long as we thought it was. It's not going to be as bad as we thought it was. So there's so much information that the only thing that really helps you is time. Because then you can start looking back. You've just got to Google it. How have the house price index since they started registering it? And it's always this, isn't it? Goes up and up and up. Goes up and down, but always in an upward direction. So in the downs, right now, with higher interest rates, some properties are barely cash flowing. And there are ways around that. And you've only got to look at what Mark does to know that there are some good ways around that. We'll come to that in a minute. But over time, you know that right now, if you're in the downward trend, you're going to pick up a bargain. Because in 10 years' time, you're going to be saying, can I get back to 2023? Because, boy, I wanted to buy up as many as possible. And that is the key for me, understanding longevity of property and understanding those numbers. So if it does, if you're looking at buy-to-lets and it doesn't work right now, so Mark here is an absolute expert in serviced accommodation. And if you look at serviced accommodation, it's booming. It's absolutely booming. The number of lenders now in that space is huge. Thanks to things like Airbnb. It's a growing market that people are being far more innovative in what they do with properties, but also HMOs and shops with tops, different types of tenants. But it's looking at those, looking at the numbers, working out your income, and bearing in mind one of the beauties, I'm sorry if I'm waffling on, you've shut up, but one of the beauties of property is that you can look at the different types of tenants, the different types of income, and you've got flexibility. And I just love it, but I love understanding the numbers, especially angels. So was another thing, use other people's money. Other people's money always works.
Just explain what angels is.
Angels, other people's money. Private finance, an individual. More often than not, it can be mum and dad, auntie, uncle, cousin from way back, or your boss, or somebody you've worked with in the past. There's all sorts of people wanting to get into property for their pension pot, to support their pension generally. And you can borrow other people's money because they don't know how to get into property. They're fearful. Let's be right. They're fearful, and they'd rather hand that over. Okay, bring it on, because I can make that money work harder for them. So long as you know the numbers.
And I think that's right, because obviously when you're starting out, I mean, I even doubt myself now, because there's always that voice in your head, isn't there? That pesky voice that's saying to you, this is risky, and it's just trying to look after you at the end of the day. But it is about knowing the numbers and making sure it stacks, but also not, like you say, over time, property is quite forgiving in the sense. It's not a very forgiving strategy in the moment, because it can be a real pain. It can be a real, a real thing. But over time, it is. And that's how you gain the wealth. You get wealthy, you get rich over time. It's not a get rich quick. You can get cash flowing, great, but it's slow and steady. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. And I just think, So a lot of people, when they're doing numbers, will obviously do a worst case scenario, a best case scenario, but it's the emotion. And I think that's one of the things is the numbers are the numbers. The numbers have no emotion. The numbers are the numbers. You know, the numbers don't go up automatically. They don't go down automatically. It's us fiddling with them that does. So it really is about having faith in what you're putting in front of you and sticking with it, isn't it?
Yeah. I remember I was on a mentorship with this young man in Wales. We were in Wales, and he said to me, "These properties are just not working. I'm getting a return on investment of 2 or 3%." And I thought, well, that's not right. This was a few years back. The interest rates were low, rents were good. I'm thinking that's not, we were in the valleys, and I'm thinking, this is the valleys. I've done the valleys. Yeah, this place works all day long. So I looked at his spreadsheet. Yeah, and his spreadsheet was wrong. Because he didn't understand the numbers. So everything he's thinking, how come everybody else gets return on investments at this or return on investments at that, and I'm not, And there's so many different ways that you could, like you said, you tweak it, don't you? You can tweak the numbers, because whenever you ask a letting agent, what's the rents right now, they'll always give you a range. Yeah. They're always going to. They'll always give you a done up, say, what's it worth when it's all done up? And I've put on new doors and a lovely chandelier and a gold taps. And, they'll still give you a range, because it does depend on who the buyers are at that moment in time and who you're renting to at that moment in time.
Yeah.
But here's a couple of key things to realize. Even now, so we're just at a downward turn. So if you're watching this podcast in 2, 3, 4 years' time, you might be in an upward trend. Yeah, fantastic. You might be back where we were with an upward trend and low interest rates. But right now we've got some quite high interest rates and a downward trend-ish. But even then, it's the perfect time to pick up a bargain in some areas, but not in all areas. We were chatting before we went live on air, Mark, that, some areas for a property that comes on the market, there are still lots of people viewing and buying those properties. And yet there are other areas. So there's a couple of bargains I've got an eye on. Yeah, I'm thinking they've reduced that. And I know that a property around the corner. Yeah, so there's one in particular I'm looking at. Don't need any work, unfortunately. So there's no adding the value that way. But they've just reduced it. They had it at 160,000. They've reduced it to 150. The one round the corner, well, I own 3 round the corner. They were all at 165, 170,000, all 3 of them. And there's got sold comparables at 165 to 170,000. So this one is particularly cheap. Yeah. And it's just that they've hit the market at that January. They've hit the January. Now, I think you're right. And this is Sheffield I'm talking about. So I think there are people going to go in and have a look at that now, especially now it's been reduced. Yeah. So I might. We'll see.
It's worth I always think it's worth a little cheeky offer at the end of the day, isn't it? Just to see what happens. It's always worth a viewing, because it's always worth getting out there, seeing what they need at the end of the day. What's the vendor's purpose? It's reduced for a reason. They obviously want a quick sale or just want shot of something. So if you can solve that problem, that's the first thing to go into. See what the problem is, see if you can solve it, and then work on the numbers. And if the numbers, you can get the numbers to stack, that's what you go back with your offer, isn't it? And it's just having that certainty in that. And I think I'm massive on building a business in my property. I'm building property businesses, something that actually, is sustainable. It's not just a hobby for me. Now, if you want to have it as a hobby, that's fine, but not for me. I like to have a business. And of course, business is run by the numbers. Your profits and loss and everything. You've got to have cash flow, and you've got to have it there. So, I mean, how did that? I know you put this training together, which covers commercial conversion, so to speak. It covers HMOs, buy to lets, angel investing. How did it come about? Well, I mean, obviously you've put a lot of time and effort and love into this.
I did put a lot of love into this. Yeah, I did. So my story, after we got into property and we started doing property, we then started training people in property. Now, we did this for another big company. It wasn't something we were running our own. We do that now, but at the time we were doing this for another company. And I would stand in front of a room anywhere between 50 and 100 people. And I'd say, I'll do a bonus session in the lunch break if you need me to go through the numbers again. And I was looking at a third, a quarter, a half, depending upon the situation of the room, running out, grabbing a sandwich, coming back in, calculator in hand, notepads are ready, saying, okay, I need this, Janette, do this, dead slow. And that was where I realized, hey, I'm not as daft as I thought I was. There are other people that just like me sit there thinking, so do I add that? Do I take that away? How does that work? You know, and unless you've got somebody with you, firstly, to walk you through it, dead slow. Yeah, dead slow, no hurry, take your time and work through it. Having a technique, so I started to devise this technique where there was the two sections. Okay, so there's the purchase, refurb, rent out, but then there's the refinancing. Yeah, pulling as much money out as possible and being sure that that still cash flows. Yeah, so there's these two sections, and that is over time. Now, it was never laid out in that way to me. It was, so, I mean, right now I haven't got my iPad. I'm not showing it to you, but literally I have two columns when I'm talking through the numbers. So there's a nice, clear divide about the purchase section and then the refinance section, and that both of those link together correctly. So I work you through a system that will help you understand it, because you can have the most fanciest, wonderful apps. You can have a fancy, wonderful spreadsheet, but if it's not in here, you ain't going to believe what that app tells you and what the spreadsheet tells you. You'll think something's gone wrong, hasn't it? I've done something wrong, because you start to question yourself. Yeah. So that is why I teach this slowly, methodically, and repeat. Yeah. It's the other problem. I said 18 months between starting our training and actually getting the first deal over the line. And, you know, if you're not out there active and running the numbers, then it does this in and out. And you think, what happened to that?
Yeah. Well, you've got to, it's practice. At the end of the day, it's the same as anything, isn't it? It's staying in practice. And I mean, one of the things I do say to my students and clients and stuff like that is just run some numbers, you know, just have a look on Rightmove, have a look on Spare Room, depending on the strategies of what you're looking at. Grab the deal analyzer. You know, we all have a deal analyzer spreadsheet, but also run the numbers yourself as well, because it's all right. We get lazy, don't we? We just want to put it into a spreadsheet and see what it spits out. But if for any reason you've miscalculated or you've hit one of the formulas on your spreadsheet, like you say with your friend, it's all gone to cock, and you think nothing stacks up and nothing works. So you do need a level of understanding to be able to, you know, run the numbers yourself. And equally, it makes you a better property investor, because if you don't have to rely on going home or going to your laptop or whatever like that to run numbers, if you could basically with your clipboard or a piece of paper and a notepad jot the numbers down and get a real good understanding then and there, that could be the difference between getting a deal and not. Because if you can put an offer in quite quickly, confident and solidly in and assuredly that you know that this stacks, it stacks at this price, I'll put this offer in now if they take it off the market. Do you know what I mean? You know yourself with property, speed of implementation is massive when it comes to it. Speed and certainty are two of the key ingredients. So I think that's really, really good. But like I say, we do get lazy. And I know when I first started out and I was weighing up my deals, and it was like, well, I could just add a bit here. Maybe I'll get a bit more rent there. Maybe it won't cost so much here. Maybe it won't cost. And it's just like, no, Mark, pack that in. This is what it costs, because that's what you've been told what it costs. You know, that is you can't. You live in cuckoo land, don't we? But we want the deals, don't we? That's what I'm saying. It's the emotion and everything. So stick with the numbers, but know that you've got the certainty there, and of course, practice. So how do you go about that then? In what do you and in how you help people?
So I run a course that's specifically all about numbers. So we run the buy-to-let numbers, simple buy-to-let numbers. And then we say, okay, let's just flip it a bit. What if you wanted to achieve a specific return on investment? Yeah. How can we look at the numbers in a slightly different way? Not that numbers don't change, by the way, but we just look at it. Okay, so if I wanted 25% return on investment, well, that's the money comes out through cash flow over 25%, 4 years. Yeah, so 4 years worth of cash flow. And that's it, you know. But then we start to think, okay, well, that's fine if it's an up north property. What if it's down in London? London and the southeast operate in a completely different world, really, from up north. So in London, people will fall over themselves, even if it doesn't cash flow. Yeah, they're after that capital uplift. Yeah, 2%, 3%, 4% capital uplift on £500,000 property. It's huge amounts of money. Yeah, that's what they're after. So how do you factor that in? Does it have to be just cash flow? Because when I came through training, they were just talking about cash flow, never talked about capital uplift, and that's very naive. Yeah. Remember that graph, it's going to go up, 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 up. That's what makes it so attractive. Yeah. Yeah. So that's another thing that we'll do. Another thing we'll do is we will say, okay, what if I don't have the deposit, but mother does? Yeah. But mother's a right tight flipping woman. Yes. Mother's a right tight woman, and she wants interest on her money. If she lends it to me, she'll want an interest. Yeah. Same with my friend down the road who's interested in property. They want a return on their investment. They want a certain interest rate. So how does that work if I'm doing a buy-to-let? Does it work at all? What if I'm doing an HMO? What if I'm doing service accommodation? What if I'm doing a shop and top? Does it cover both the interest that you have to pay on your mortgages, as well as the interest that you're going to pay your mother? And are you doing your mother through interest only? Or does she want interest and capital repayment? Because it's going to make a difference. And how do you negotiate that with mother? Oh, that's a whole new path of experience.
Oh, yeah.
So we start to look at, okay, bringing in other people's money. How is that going to be structured? How does that affect the cash flow? And what are the advantages to you as the primary investor, the one that's got the knowledge? If you're not putting any of your own money in, but you're completely using both the bank and private investors in your deals, how does it stack up? And in fact, do you know what? As daft as it sounds, yeah, for practice, Homes Under the Hammer, just saying. Yeah, you can go in and have a look at Homes Under the Hammer. Start practicing with that. It's amazing. That was where I learned it.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you another short story, only a short one. I talk too much. I was at home at the time of doing all of this. I was running a pub for Mitchells and Butler in Sheffield, and I was at home ironing. Yeah, I was ironing when I had this epiphany. The house was empty, nobody was in, and I was watching Homes Under the Hammer, and I'm there ironing, thinking, flat in Nottingham. How much? Hold on, put the iron down. I didn't burn anything. And I got down and I thought, right, okay, hold on, let's just do this a minute. Pause. Yeah. And I started writing it out. So that was what it was worth at the end. That was the rent after they did it. So how much did they buy it for? So how much money would they have gotten from the banks? And I started working it out, and I thought, bingo, I've got it. I can now watch Homes Under the Hammer and work out all the areas around the UK as to what works and what doesn't.
Brilliant. That's brilliant.
What amazing program. Brilliant. I mean, you don't know how true most of it is. People will say, oh, they spent this much on the refurb. You don't know for sure. But yeah, what a wonderful program. And I run challenges as well sometimes for people who've come through the training with me, just to keep them on their toes. I'll say to them, right, we're going to do five-day challenge. I'll keep them on their toes. And we run numbers on specific properties. I'll say, right, this is your property. So Monday morning, this is your property. These are the prices. Run your numbers. What's your offer going to be if you want to make a 20% return? Yeah. What's your offer going to be if you had mother giving you the deposit money of whatever at X amount percent? Yeah. So I give them challenges, and then the following day I give them the answers.
That's brilliant.
It just keeps us all in practice. We have to find the time to practice.
Yeah, exactly. Because then you know a good deal when you see one, and that is, as I go back to being a property professional, there's no point in going and viewing, although it's good practice to go and view properties and talk to people, and you never know what's going to be out there. But realistically, if there's no point in looking at a deal that is ridiculously priced and there's no wiggle room, you might as well just leave that for the amateurs. And if you can quickly work out your numbers, your percentage, your ROI, roughly what you can offer, then it's a whole different conversation that you're having. Do you find that as well with like a vendor? You're going in there and you're sort of almost, the conversation's almost going in the direction of, I pretty much know what I could offer on here. Let's see if they're going to get anywhere in that ballpark. Then it's not a shock to anybody. You look more professional, and I think it's great. I think it's superb. So, how have your students gone through with it? Has it just given people that more confidence going forward? And has it also given them more confidence to do maybe more constructive deals? Making things work.
It's given them the confidence to be able to do just that, Mark. To go in, and they can build the rapport, and they can have a bit of look. I'm thinking ballpark around this sort of number. How does that, is that anywhere near that you're looking to be or achieve? And because we do talk about negotiations and stuff like that, it just gives people the confidence that if somebody counter offers, they can then say, oh, okay, let me just have a think about this. And they can spend some time, just saying, I tell you what, why not leave it with me, and I will come back to you later on today. And then go back quickly, get a piece of paper, scribble it down, work out the numbers. If that is going to be X, return on investment approximately, am I up for that or am I not? Simple. Yeah. You can go back and counter offer again. There's nothing wrong with that. But you need to understand. And I know lots of people that never understood the numbers. They just thought, if I own a property, I'm rich. If I own an investment property, I'm rich, and that's all that matters. And I know people like that because I've seen them, and they'll say, oh, I've got this house and it's unencumbered. There is no mortgage, so I get all the cash flow. And I'm thinking, you've never run return on investment, have you? You've never actually worked out what a return on investment truly is and how that number truly works. Because if you did, you wouldn't own that outright. You'd own 5 of them, all mortgaged up, because you can just make so much more money.
That's it.
But it's thinking a little bit of knowledge. And, they do okay. They got a house. It's great. But they could be doing so much more if they understood the power of the numbers. So much out there that you can get done. And that does, I do think, perhaps I've been put on this planet to help people understand that. Well, leverage your bank, share the love.
Well, that's it. That's it. But that's what it's all about. It is giving back at the end of the day. It's helping people. I mean, I know people with unencumbered properties. They're living in good areas as well. Down south and everything. They're sat on £500,000 unencumbered, and they're like, happy days. I've got no mortgage. Yeah. But you're working your socks off. You could have time free there. You could actually, get. I always say you can get rental properties that will cash flow enough to get you out of your day job and also pay the mortgage on your house. Oh no, it's too risky. It's too risky. And then again, it's because they don't know the numbers and they don't understand it, do they? And that
Yeah.
is again what the power is. If you want to do a JV with somebody, so let's say for argument's sake, you see a fantastic deal. You haven't got the funds. Maybe you bought something, or maybe you just haven't got the funds. Fair enough. But if you can go to an investor and you can explain the numbers to a savvy investor, you have a hell of a lot more chance of them saying, "I'll tell you what, I want to work with you. You're on the ball." Than if you go there fumbling and bumbling and trying to show them a spreadsheet and all of this, and this might happen and that might happen. You've got to be solid in your number. I always think of Dragon's Den as a program. And at the end of the day, when somebody goes on Dragon's Den and they, of course, ask the numbers, and for whatever reason they stumble and bumble, and you just think, no, it's nothing. You get that bit right. You can mess up your sales pitch, but if you mess up the numbers, the investors are not bothered at all, are they?
They're not. You're absolutely right. If you are looking at a professional investor, they expect you to know, to know how the numbers work and know how different influences affect the numbers. And they want to be able to see that, you're on the board and you can show them the cash flow, you can show them how you're going to pay them back. Yeah. If you're doing interest only, how are you going to pay them that lump sum back? Yeah. You can show them exactly. And you can base it on evidence.
Yeah.
And of course, it's knowing the numbers, how they work.
With property as well, you might do a project, it might get to the end, you might not get the GDV you wanted. But if you can say to the, to a savvy, to any investor at the end of the day, whether it's your dad, your mum, whoever, your brother, your sister, if you can go to them and say, listen, this is what we're doing, boom, boom, boom. Obviously, markets can change while we do things. Property doesn't happen in 5 minutes. If this happens, we'll make sure that you get this while we solve this problem here. Are you happy with that? And if you can go into those deals and explain to investors that this, I don't like plan A's and B's. I always think you've got to go for plan A, but you've got to have something in the background when you're doing any deals, and you're obviously using other people's money as well. But to say, plan A is this, you get your money back, a return on that. Potentially you might not want your money back. We might go again. But if we're trapped, are you happy to have your money parked there because it's in the asset, it's not gone anywhere? And these are the percentages that we'll pay you while we basically continue to borrow your money. And this is it. You just get it down there. You explain it with your investor pack. You know your numbers. People have got faith in what you're doing, and you sound professional. Well, you are professional at the end of the day, isn't it?
It is. It is professional. If you don't know or understand the numbers, you are just playing a very dangerous game. You can lose your shirt in property. It can happen. It can. And you really do need to understand the numbers. It's not an option, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's not an option to rely on a spreadsheet or rely on an app. It has to be in here. Because once it's in here, nobody can take it from you.
Yeah. No, it's exactly. Knowledge is power at the end of the day, and it's worth learning these things. And this is why I thought this would be such a great podcast episode to do, actually, and to bring you back on. And I know for a fact that you've got a webinar coming up as well, where you're going to talk more about this and give people, show people it, actually be able to share the screen, so to speak, and talk to people and show them what this is all about. So look out for that, because if you're on my newsletter feed, you will get an invitation to that. So do take us up on that, because it's going to be a fantastic webinar where Janette's going to help you with numbers and give people more confidence in that sort of thing. So like I say, if you're not on the newsletter, you need to sign up. So go to thepropertyunleashed.com and just download one of the freebies there, and you'll be added to the mail list, or reach out to me on social media, of course, and we can send you in the right direction. So that's going to be coming imminently. So just keep an eye out for that coming forward. But no, it's been absolutely fantastic to have you on, Jenna. And is there anything you'd like to sort of leave anybody with, obviously with the topic of numbers?
Ooh. You started saying a deal is a deal or not a deal.
Yeah.
What was your expression again? Because this is something that you did.
I always say a deal is not a deal unless it's a deal.
There you go.
And what I mean by that is people see it and they think, oh, that's a great deal. Then you need to run the numbers. And then if the numbers stack, it's a deal. A deal isn't actually a deal unless it's a deal and a win-win for everybody.
Yep. And I would leave you with Mark's passwords there. Thank you very much.
It's brilliant.
The basics of property investing, you have to know it. You have to know. And if you are like so many of us when we started. Yeah, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's absolutely fine. But we can do so much better with one of these, or a phone. Don't mind, bring your phone. But yeah, when I do the webinar, I'm going to have an iPad. You'll have to cope with my dodgy handwriting, but that's life.
Hey, there's no problems there. There's no problems there whatsoever. So yeah, do we have a date for that?
We do. The date is, hold on, 11th of February, Saturday.
So if you listen to this after the 11th of February on 2023, you've missed the date, reach out to me and I'll tell you the next date, because I'm sure she'll be kind enough to run this again. But yeah, it's put it in, put a date in your diary. There will be a link if you're listening to this or watching this anywhere that has links. If not, then as I say, reach out to me. We'll put a link in the description so that you can log on and join Janette and go through the numbers and become the professional yourself. And even if you've done a few deals, but you're still like I was when I started out, and like Janette was, doubt yourself, doubt your numbers, always a bit worried because obviously you don't want to lose anybody's money. You don't want to lose your own money. You want to make sure you're doing things properly. This is a fantastic opportunity. And I'll be there as well because every day's a school day at the end of the day. And I don't think I know everything. So I'll be there going along as well and enjoying it. And yeah, come and join us on that. It's a free webinar. It won't cost you a bean to come and join us and to find out and learn more about numbers in the property world. One of the main things, and this is what I love about Janette as well, is we like to give back. We like to support people. We like to see people doing things the right way. The press will jump on anything they can to say landlords are ripping tenants off. Investors are ripping landlords off and homeowners off, and they'll do anything they can for bad press. It's nice to try and get out there to make sure that we're doing as good a job as we possibly can to help others. Because hey, we had that help when we were starting as well, didn't we?
Yes, absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, once again, thank you for joining me today. And I look forward to the webinar on the 11th of February. Again, reach out to me if you want to join it or visit thepropertyunleashed.com as well. We'll put a link on there. And basically, guys and girls, keep focusing on your vision. Keep chasing those goals. Take care and bye for now.
Take care. Bye-bye.